Hello there and welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first video of mine you are seeing, then welcome. Well, I figured since that I have finally sat down and done my entire makeup inventory, I completely typed in every single thing I own to an app on my phone called Tiny Decisions, and I thought it would be fun just to let this app basically shop my stash for me and pick out my full entire face of makeup. I did this yesterday just for fun, and honestly I loved it so much. It was just nice that it picked out products that normally I either wouldn't reach for or I haven't reached for them in a long time, and I really enjoyed it. And I really loved the lip combo actually that it picked out for me yesterday. I did not expect to like that lip combo as much as I did, but I thought it'd be fun just to do this on camera. I know that Sarah Rose Beauty has done a video like this before on her channel, so I will link her video down below, and I think she used the same app. I know that I've seen a couple of project panners talk about the Tiny Decisions app, and it really is a good app for stuff like this. So if that sounds interesting, let's get started. Okay, so first off, I'm going to let it pick my eyeshadow primer since I do have two of those. So I'm hoping you can see that. Okay, pick the Danessa Myricks one for me. I will say one thing about this app, if it's something that you're interested in, I have the free version, so there are ads. You can pay to have the ads removed. I'm not sure how much it is, but I mean, if it's an app you're going to use a lot, that might be worth it to you. Just for me doing this, I'm not going to pay, but that is an option. I just want to tell anybody that in case you're interested. Alright, here are my primers, like my face primers. Okay, I cannot read that from here. What does that say? Okay, so it picked out the e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Primer. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer, I can't speak. Okay, I'm going to let it pick out an eyeshadow stick for me. I normally never use my eyeshadow sticks, so I'm going to let it pick one out. So, let's see which one it picks. Okay, so it picked the e.l.f. Cosmetics eyeshadow stick in the shade Magnetic Pull. Okay, see, something like this I could end up using maybe as a base for the eyeshadow, whatever the eyeshadow palette it might pick. This might be a good base, we'll see. Okay, I'm going to let it pick next some eyeshadow between my singles, duos, and trios. I'm going to see which one of these that it will pick for me. Okay, so it picked ColourPop Super Shock Shadow in Frog. Okay, eyeshadow palettes is next. It has a ton of eyeshadow palettes to pick from, so let's see who it picks. So it picked the Kosas Undressed palette. That is a definite neutral eyeshadow palette for sure, but I think that might work out in my favor, especially since, well, now the Super Shock Shadow in Frog I believe is like a pinky kind of shade, and then that might work really well with the eyeshadow stick it picked out. Okay, I never wear eyeliner, so we're going to let it pick an eyeliner for me. Okay, it picked ColourPop in the shade Joyride. I'm not sure which one that is. I know that I have a black, a brown, and a burgundy. Okay, Joyride actually ended up being the burgundy. Alright, let's let it pick mascara. Oh, it picked my favorite. It picked the Refi Lash Sculpt Mascara. That's like my top favorite mascara of all time. Okay, for setting spray, I only have the Charlotte Tilbury one, so I'm just going to keep that, of course. So the next category will be foundations. Okay, the Super Goop Protect Tint. Now, I have not worn that one in a long time, so I'm actually glad it picked that one because it's been a while since I've worn that product. Alright, let's let it pick a corrector for me. Okay, it picked the e.l.f. Cosmetics, the Putty Under Eye Corrector thing, so let me grab that one. Alright, concealers. Okay, it picked the Fenty Beauty We're Even concealer. That's a really good one. That's one of my favorites. Okay, next up is powders. If it picks a pink powder, I am going to let it pick another one along with it so I can use it on the rest of my face. So, let's see. Okay, I think that says CoverGirl Porcelain. It's hard to read it backwards on my little viewfinder. Yeah, CoverGirl the Porcelain shade. That is a pressed powder. I am going to let it pick a face palette for me, and I'll just have to see how I can maybe work it in because I am going to let it pick a bronzer and a blush for me, so let's just see what it will end up picking for me as far as face palettes. Okay, I think that says Hourglass Tiger. Yeah. Alright, the next step is bronzers. Okay, I think that's the NYX Buttermelt, if I'm reading that correctly, because it's backwards in my little viewfinder. Yeah, the NYX Buttermelt, that's a really good bronzer. I honestly think the bronzers in that line are better than the blushes, but the blushes are good, but I like the bronzer way better. It has a lot of blushes to pick from, so let's see who it's going to pick for blush. I know that says Wet n Wild. Which one does that say? Okay, Ferris Wheel Fantasy. I am going to use it, but that's more like a highlighter shade on me. So I'm going to pull that one, but I'm going to let it pick again because that is not a blush shade, really. They call it a blush, but it is definitely a highlighter. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So let me let it pick again. But I will use that one too. Okay, I can't read what that says. What does that say? Elf Cosmetics. Oh, Bold-Faced Lilac. Okay, ooh, that's one of my favorites. And I definitely think that Bold-Faced Lilac shade will pair up really well with that Ferris Wheel Fantasy. I'll definitely show you what I mean. That shade's too much of a highlighter, so instead of letting it pick a highlighter, which I only have one anyway, I will use that one instead. I have Ferris Wheel Fantasy right here, and I'm going to show you. Do you see what I mean? This is definitely like more of a highlighter shade, so that's why I wanted it to pick something else, because that's very highlightery, but it's a very pretty shade, but it's definitely not a blush on me. Whereas honestly, I don't think that would be a blush on anybody. It's definitely a highlighter. Brow products, this is definitely where I might have to keep spinning it a couple of times. I did yesterday because it picked out a gel, but then to get it to pick a pencil, it kept picking a gel, and I need both, so we'll see what happens this time. Okay, what does that say? Okay, that's the brow tint pen. Alright, so let's let it pick a gel. What does that say? I can't read that. Okay, alright, the Laura Geller pencil and gel. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll use the NYX brow tint pen, and then I'll use the gel side of the Laura Geller pencil. Go ahead and let it pick like my lip prep, so lip oils and balms. It has pretty good variety of here too. Okay, I know that says CoverGirl. CoverGirl Leaves You Smiling. That's one of those balms. I think that's one of the limited edition shades that they had for Earth Day maybe a year or two ago. It's definitely, I believe that's one of the ones that's basically like a clear, but let me grab it. Yeah, that's definitely one. It just looks like this, but it goes on completely clear. Lip liners. Okay, that's the Laura Geller Purely Pink. Now we're going to let it pick a lipstick for me. I can't read that. What does that say? Milani Pleasure. And then last but not least, we're going to let it pick a lip gloss for me. What does that say? Lights Lacquer Alyssa. Alright, we're going to start with eyeshadow primer, and it picked out the Danessa Myricks Blurring Balm Powder, and I have hit a little pan in this, which I'm very excited about because I do really like this. If you use just a small amount of it, I find that it's perfect for eyeshadow primer. I know the first time I used it, I applied way too much and it was a little bit too greasy, but just applying a small amount and it's perfect. Adjust my mirror here a little bit. And then I'm just going to take my Flawless Concealer brush from e.l.f. and just make sure that's blended out, which it feels like it, but I like to go over it with a brush. I had so much fun letting that app pick out my products yesterday. I think that it's definitely a good way to get some really good use out of products in my collection. Aside from, of course, from my everyday makeup drawer, I'm going to take my e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. I don't know if there is some kind of air bubble in this, but every time I go to open it, it just oozes out of there, and I don't know why. Like, look. Like, it's just constantly squeezing out. I don't know what happened to it. And it's been doing that for a while. So I'm going to take what I can. I don't know if it has some kind of air bubble in it. Try to take some off the sides here, so I don't completely waste that product. You know, this is a good primer, but I much prefer the one in the Poreless Putty Primer, like the original that's in like the little tub thing, pot. I think one thing that annoys me about this one is the fact that there's like constantly some kind of air bubble in this one, and it makes me not want to use it. Okay, and then I'm going to take the Leaves You Smiling lip balm, which this one was limited edition for like Earth Day, but I mean, it's just a clear. Which they do have one, I think, in their permanent line called Clear as Crystal. So if you like these, I mean, they have other shades. They are really good lip balms. I don't use them as much as I should, but they are really good. For eyeshadow, it picked a couple of things here. Of course, it picked the Kosas Undressed eyeshadow palette, which is definitely a neutral lover's dream. But then it also picked the Super Shock Shadow from ColourPop, and this one is in the shade Frog. And then it picked the gel eyeliner in Joyride, which is kind of like this burgundy kind of shade. This was a limited edition liner that come in like a holiday set. And then it picked the e.l.f. No Budge Shadow Stick in Magnetic Pull. Okay, so I think what I might do is I'm going to start with the e.l.f. eyeshadow, which if you've never seen this shade, it looks like that right there. It's like this really cool tone, taupey kind of color. Now, I have not used mine in a while, so it might not be as creamy as it used to be. So I'm going to try to place this all over the lid, because I have not set my eyeshadow primer or anything yet. So I'm just going to kind of draw this all over the lid a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to take my Sigma E24. Start blending that out. These eyeshadow sticks from e.l.f. are really nice. Okay, I definitely did bring it out too much over here, but that's completely okay, because I'll be cleaning that up a little bit later anyway. These are really good eyeshadow sticks. I just don't wear eyeshadow sticks much. But I thought this would be like a good base, and I'm going to use more of the cooler tone shades in this Kosas palette. Alright, we're going to do the same thing on this side. Just add this all over here, and then blend that out. See, this is a really good way for me to use the eyeshadow sticks in my collection more, is actually use them like this, like a base, because I never reach for them. And then I'm going to go in with the shade Whisper. I still have that Sigma E24, yeah. And I'm going to pack this shade all over where I placed down that eyeshadow stick. Just kind of blend that all up into the crease and everything. Okay, and then I'm going to take the shade Hint. We're using the same brush, and I'm going to go around the edges of that shade just to make sure that's blended out. And I went a little too far out here, so I'm going to definitely use this shade to kind of clean that up too. Also, I completely forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, but I will have timestamps, of course, so if you don't want to watch the app pick out the products, then you can totally skip around. I'm going back in with that shade Whisper. I'm going to place that all over where I put the eyeshadow stick again, and just do the same thing on this side. Okay, and then I'm going to go into Hint again, which is that shade that's like my skin tone. We're going to clean up around that edge of that shade. I think this is a good little palette from Kosas. I feel like if you're someone that you just want a very simple palette, it's a good one. You know, at one point there, I missed out on it because I think they originally released it for, I think, the holidays in 2023. But then I noticed on their website they brought it back last year, 2024, and I picked it up then, and I'm so happy that I have it, because I know that, yes, this is boring, but I mean, honestly, I think it's a good solid palette. It's perfect for quick everyday looks. Okay, I think I'm going to just stop there, because I'm going to place that shade Frog over the top, which, let me swatch this shade for you. That's what Frog looks like. Okay, and then I'm going to tap that over the top of my lid. Ooh, that's really pigmented. Kind of wipe some off and then go back in. Of course, it's okay if it covers the entire eye, because it's kind of the vibe. I don't know how I'm going to make that red liner go in, I guess, because honestly, I wish it had picked like the black or the brown, but it's okay. This is just for fun. I'm going to do the same thing over here. That is definitely a pigmented shade, but it is so pretty. Look how pretty that is. It's so pretty. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the lower lash line. So I'm going to take the Putty Color Correcting Eye Brightener. This one's in the shade Fair, I think. Yeah, shade Fair. And I'm going to take some of that. And I do have a pan in this as well. This is a really good one. And I have some shorter press-on, so I'm able to actually put my finger in the little pot. Usually I have to scrape some out, like with the other side of a brush or something. Okay, and then I'm going to take the Fenty Beauty. This is the Wear Even Hydrating Longwear Concealer, and mine's in the shade 130W. Take just a little dot of that on both sides. This is also a really good, like, spot concealing. Like if you have some breakouts or something, I've also used this one for that, and it's really good. I feel like it definitely has some really good coverage. I'm going to take that liner, which was Joyride, but this one I believe has been discontinued now. I don't think this is one that you can buy separately. It comes in a holiday set, like maybe like 2023, and okay. And then I'm going to take this is a small angled brush from e.l.f. And I think I'm going to go in with the shade Peak. And let's run that along here. Kind of mixed it with that shade a little bit, and then start kind of working that down. Okay, and then I'm going to go back in with Frog. Pop that right there. Actually, I do need an up-close mirror for this, so I can see what I'm doing. Pop it in the inner corner, but then I'm also going to kind of run it up into like this part, and then a little bit on that lower lash line as well. Okay, I'm just going to apply my Refi Lash Sculpt right quick off camera, and we'll move on to the face. I mean, you know what? That mascara, look at that. It's my favorite for a reason. You know, my lashes do not look like that just so. The mascara is incredible. I know it's expensive. It's very expensive, but honestly, it's worth it. I've never had a mascara do my lashes like that. I mean, drugstore or high-end. Okay, I'm gonna shake up this Supergoop thing, because this is a really liquidy, and I know it's got like that sunscreen in it too. Okay, this is the Supergoop Protect Tint Daily SPF 50, and this one's in the shade, what's the shade? Oh, 10N. I think this is the lightest shade. I want to say, I don't know if this is the one you have to apply with your hands. Just comes, if you've never seen it before, which I'm sure you have, it just comes in like a squeezy bottle. I'm going to try not applying it with my hands first. I'm going to use a sponge. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my Charlotte Tilbury setting spray, and I'm going to spray my sponge. Poor sponge is so stained. It's clean, but it's so stained. Alright, and I'm going to take a little bit of this on the back of my hand. Maybe about like so. And I'm going to spread it out. Yeah, that is definitely a neutral undertone. Like, that almost looks gray on me. Yeah, this might be the one that you have to apply with your hands. And not to mention, this is a tint, so applying it with a sponge, it's not really the best thing to do. But I'm not really a coverage person anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. But if you are, this is definitely not the way to go. Definitely want to apply it with a brush. I'm going to come in closer to my mirror in just a second to see if it's laying okay, because I'm not sure if it is or not. I really like the eye look. It's very simple. I don't know what palette it would pick for me. I know the last time I let this thing pick a palette for me on camera, it picked a very colorful palette and then proceeded to pick the most neon shades from that palette. Honestly, from what I can tell in this little teeny mirror, it looks fine. Applying it with a sponge, I guess, isn't so bad, but now you definitely would get a little more coverage using your hands or a brush, of course, but now I'm definitely not a full coverage kind of person, so it doesn't bother me that it's, you know, barely there. Okay, now it picked out a liquid blush for me, so I'm going to go ahead and apply that. It picked out the e.l.f. Camo Liquid Blush in the shade Bold Face Lilac, which I love this shade so much. It looks like that right there, and it matches my nails, which I like. Pick some up with my sponge and then go in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a blush from the Hourglass palette after I set my face. Ooh, kind of blend out that a little bit up here. Of course, it's okay. I'm going to be covering this with some powder and everything in just a minute, but I wanted to get this down first. And then after I set my face, I am going to go in with a blush from the Hourglass palette because I did let it pick a palette for me. These blushes are very pigmented. And I love this shade. It is so pretty. And I think it's really pretty with this eye look. And it's kind of a double win because this blush is actually in my everyday makeup drawer for this month, so it was kind of like a double win. Because I'm getting use on a product that I actually did pick out. See just how pretty that is. Of course, I'm about to be covering it up with some powder and everything, but it's okay. I feel like I applied a little bit more on this side. Of course I did. It's usually the way it goes. I always feel like I over-apply on one side versus the other. For powder, it picked the CoverGirl Clean Fresh powder, and this one is in the porcelain shade. This is one of my most favorite powders, but I much prefer it in the translucent shade, which I do have pan in that one. Now I'm going to take a Flawless Face Brush from e.l.f. I'm just going to dig all into that powder. And we're just going to tap over my entire face with this powder. This is a good one though. I would definitely recommend it. I just much prefer a translucent when it comes to a pressed powder. For the most part, I don't mind, like, you know, a tinted powder, but I don't know. I like the translucent one better for some reason. Even though it's technically the same. Alright, and we're just going to tap over everything. And then I'm going to go in with my NYX Buttermelt Bronzer. This one is in the shade Buttercup, which is the lightest shade. And I'm just going to use that same brush. I like to tap into that, and then I like to press the excess off into the little cap. And then go in. This is a really, really beautiful bronzer. One of my favorites from 2024. I never did do an end of the year favorites video. I'm just going to be so honest. I lost track by the end of the year. Like last year when I first started out, I was writing down all of the things that I was trying and, you know, making a note of favorites and stuff, and then halfway through the year I just quit. So I lost track. I'm going to try to keep up better this year with anything I might try or products that stand out to me as, like, you know, top favorites. I'm going to try to keep better track of it. But this was definitely a favorite. It's such a good bronzer. I like it better than the blushes. The blushes are pretty, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like, I don't know. I just think the bronzer is like the star of like the buttermelt stuff. And I'm just wiping that brush off on a little silicone mat in between because I'm just going to keep using the same one. Now, I'm going to go in with this Wet n Wild Ferris Wheel Fantasy. This was part of their Fantasy Makers line, and you can't get this now. This was limited edition. It was for their, like, I think their Fantasy Makers line is like their Halloween line. And I'm going to place that right here. Well, actually, did it add a little bit of something, or am I just still seeing the e.l.f.? Because, see, this is marketed as a blush. Let me dip into that again. Maybe there is a little something there. I always felt like it looked more like a highlighter, but maybe there's a little bit of blush to it. Okay. I just thought it was pretty. Even though I've never been like a highlighter person, there was something about this one that's pretty, and I think I really love the name, Ferris Wheel Fantasy. Like, I just think that's so cute. Even though I've never been on a Ferris wheel in my life. I'm not an amusement park person, I'm just going to go ahead and say. The only thing I've ever liked at amusement parks is the carousel. And I know that now I'm probably way too old to be on a carousel, but I love the carousel. It's just, first of all, it's pretty to look at because I love the horses. I know a lot of them now have all kinds of animals, but carousel horses are absolutely gorgeous. Even on the ones that have like the other animals, I'd always pick the horse because I just feel like that's the classic, a carousel horse. I love carousel horses. They're so beautiful. I always wanted a real one, like, you know, to have for display. But I'm totally getting off track here, I'm sorry, but I have a, you know those horses that you used to could buy? I don't know if you can still buy them now. They used to be called hobby horses. I don't know what they might be called now. And they'd be on the little stands, and they kind of like rock back and forth, like for kids. I had one as a child. It was from the 90s. And it was a very Western looking horse because it had like the rope on the side and all that. I kept it my entire life. And then I think maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, I turned it into a carousel horse. I took it off of the little stand and I bought a curtain rod. And my dad, of course, helped me. He like drilled the hole, and then I placed the curtain rod and made a carousel horse. It's actually sitting right here next to me, and I painted it and everything because the horse was like a blue-gray color. I painted the horse white, and the mane and tail is pink, the saddle's gold, and then the blanket under the saddle I painted pink, and then I've added flowers to the base of it, and then there's flowers on the horse as well. I don't know. So this, even though Ferris wheel is not the same thing as a carousel, whenever I see this or hear the name, I think about the carousel, and I think that's kind of why I wanted to keep this, because it's kind of like a memory thing. That was the longest story, just to say that I like the name of that blush. Okay, we're going to go in with the Hourglass Tiger palette. Now let's see who I want to use. This is a very warm palette. Like, this was the one that, if you bought this the way it came, the year this one launched, this was for deeper complexions. But I think I'm going to take a little bit of this shade right here, which that would be Iridescent Rose. I'm going to take a little bit of that. Didn't pick up too much. It's pretty. I want to definitely use these palettes more from Hourglass. I do use them, but not enough. Like I mentioned in my inventory video, I do kind of view these as collector's items. So I think that's one of the reasons why I don't reach for them as much as I should. But I mean, I should be using them because they're very expensive palettes. Alright, I'm just going to go across the nose. Why not? Cute. Go to my brows now. Let me zoom you in a little bit here. Brush these down. Alright, now I picked out the NYX. This is the Lift and Snatch Brow Tint Pen, and mine's in the shade Espresso. I haven't used this in a while. I'm not the best at these liquid things, and honestly, I don't wear them the way you really should, because I know most people use, like, make the little hair-like strokes. My brows are just a little bit too thick for that, so I just mostly use it, like, right up in here at the top to fill in my bald spots. Now, if you are starting out with very thin brows, this would be perfect for you to create those hair-like strokes, but I just don't have the brows for that. I just have a little bit of baldness like on the top of my brow. I don't know why that is, but it's always been that way. And then it did pick the Laura Geller. This is the Sculpt and Stay Waterproof Brow Pencil in Gel, but I'm just going to use the gel side, which this gel, it's not like the worst thing, but I feel like it just doesn't really do anything, for me anyway. It's not like a bad one, but I just feel like it's nothing special. For lip products, it picked the Laura Geller Modern Classic Waterproof Lip Liner in the shade Purely Pink, which that is what that looks like right there. So let me fill in my lips with this, or line in. I think I'm going to line and fill them in. I like to fill in my top lip and then blot down to transfer it. It's a pretty shade. Her lip products are pretty good too. Her lipsticks are good too. And then it picked out the Milani. I think this is like the Color Fetish, Matte Fetish lipsticks, and this one is in the shade Pleasure, which that is what that looks like right there. I'm going to swatch that a little bit bigger on my hand, and I'm going to take my finger and pick it up like that and tap it. Something like that. And then the gloss it picked is from Lights Lacquer. This is their, I think, the Jelly Bomb Lip Lacquer, and this one's in the shade Alyssa. These are really nice lip glosses. My favorite is Miss Honey, which I've gotten over halfway done with that one. Alright, so I'm going to take this. Okay, so here is this full face of makeup that an app picked out for me. I just let the app shop my stash, and then what do we think? I actually think it did a pretty good job. These products are really pretty. I love the eyeshadow. I love that just soft, and then you can see the pretty sparkle to that. And I like the blush combo too. I don't usually layer blushes like that. I know that a lot of people layer. They'll do their liquid or their cream blush, then powder, and then they'll put a powder blush over the top. I never feel like I do that. I always stick with one blush, and I don't know why I do that, because I mean, when you mix and match them, you never know what kind of combo you can create. So yeah, I like this. But I do hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I hope you will please consider leaving a like, comment, or subscribing if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you are alerted to all my future uploads. Follow me on Instagram at jessicadeerly. All of these products, well, the ones that are still available, will be listed and linked for you below. They are affiliate links, so if you click through and purchase, I do earn a small commission, and if you choose to do so, thank you so much for supporting me and my channel, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!